Well, the Republican National Convention met this past week, and as Christians, if you were planning to vote for a Republican, we might need to ask ourselves, can we still vote Republican? If indeed that was your plan, and even if it wasn't, I'm going to be going through 5 notable provisions in the 2024 Republican platform. And then we'll hear from John MacArthur about Christians and voting. Welcome to Truth Transforms. My name's Adam Markley, and we'll be diving right into it, starting with an article here by the Christian Post, 5 notable provisions in the 2024 Republican platform. There are some major changes. Number one is that we see a change in pro-life laws, in what what they're advocating for. So the change in the platform's language on abortion generated the most attention. Absolutely, indeed. This year, only one paragraph in the document is devoted to abortion. By contrast, nearly the entire page in the 2016 platform, also in 2020, outlined the party's view on abortion. We are continuing to see a weakening stance on abortion. We're continuing to see a weakening stance on pro-life, and that is, of course, because that is what Donald Trump was doing. He's been paving the way toward that. And sadly, after the terrible events over the weekend, this attempted assassination, we knew this was already in the works, and it was kind of like, yeah, he's going to get exactly what he wants now for sure. Because of all of that, there's so much support behind him. And so there were petitions and things out there for this not to happen, but the platform has been changed on that and other factors. So let's continue. Couple other highlights. Unlike the 2016 platform, which expressed support for a human life, amend to the Constitution and legislation to make clear that the 14th Amendment's protections apply to children before birth, this year's platform stopped short of calling for a human life amendment. Instead, it states that states are, therefore, free to pass laws protecting those rights. Moving on, the platform section on abortion concludes with a vow to oppose late-term abortion while supporting mothers and policies that advance prenatal care, access to birth control, and IVF treatments. Absent from the platform is any mention of opposition to taxpayer funding of abortion, euthanasia, and a condemnation of the Democrats' position on the issue. So we're seeing a lot of changes there. We definitely are seeing a lot of changes. Let's get to number 2 here. Number 2 change in the platform: vows to fight against LGBT ideology, but no mention of same-sex marriage. In fact, I believe no mention of marriage at all. Let's see what it has to say. The platform also includes a brief paragraph insisting that Republicans will end left-wing gender insanity. It specifically states, "We will keep men out of women's sports, ban taxpayer funding for sex change surgeries, and stop taxpayer-funded schools from promoting gender transition, reverse Biden's radical rewrite of Title IX education regulations, and restore protections for women and girls." So there's some good in that, but here's where we get though to the change language on the negative side. The 2024 platform, in contrast to its predecessor, does not include any mention of the 2015 U.S. Supreme Court decision of Obergefell versus Hodges, which legalized same-sex marriage nationwide. So we have a fight against LGBT up here, that's stated, and that is very good and very much needed, but no mention about marriage at all. No focus on, just even down here is going to say more about that, the traditional marriage, biblical marriage. While the 2016 platform featured a defense of traditional marriage and family based on marriage between one man and one woman as the foundation for a free society, and expressed opposition to Obergefell, which it described as a decision that robbed 320 million Americans of their legitimate constitutional authority to define marriage as the union of one man and one woman, the 2024 platform does not contain such language. So a lot that was removed in this year's convention. Number 3, calls for creation of federal task force on fighting anti-Christian bias. So that looks good. Let's read about that. Are you appreciating the truth that's being declared in this episode? Would you like to be reminded of the importance of God's truth each and every day? You might want to go pick up the Truth Transforms coffee mug. That's available in the merchandise shop. You can also get a t-shirt, a hoodie, or even a hat. It is something that certainly I think you'll find to be a blessing, and it is a great way to support the ministry as well. Now, back to the show. Okay, while this year's Republican platform is much more scaled back compared to previous versions, it forcefully calls for a new federal task force on fighting anti-Christian bias that will investigate all forms of illegal discrimination, harassment, and persecution against Christians in America. The push for such a task force comes amid concerns about the pre-dawn raid at the hands of federal law enforcement on the home of a pro-life activist who purportedly violated the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act while praying outside an abortion clinic in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, as well as the publication of an FBI memo suggesting an openness to infiltrate churches that embrace what it describes as radical traditionalist Catholic ideology, and suggesting that adherence to the branch of Catholicism constitute a national security threat. Yes, so a lot of persecution of Christians and those outside of the faith, but also with Christian values, biblical morality, and so having a task force that will go after keep it from happening, stop the anti-Christian bias sounds good, certainly. The platform also stresses the importance of religious liberty, although its section on the matter is much shorter compared to previous years. We are defenders of the First Amendment right to religious liberty, the document states. Okay, now let's take a look at number 4. Number 4 includes support for parental rights in education. This year's platform includes multiple small provisions related to the issue of parental rights in education. Although light on specifics, the document contains a vow to restore parental rights in education and enforce our civil rights to stop schools from discriminating on the basis of race. The platform also expresses support for efforts to overhaul public school curriculum. Republicans will ensure children are taught fundamentals like reading, history, science, and math, not left-wing propaganda. We will defund schools that engage in inappropriate indoctrination of our children using federal taxpayer dollars. So that is definitely good. It says the platform's commitment to parental rights in education comes as concerns about the embrace of LGBT ideology and other progressive ideologies in public schools have led to increased awareness about parental rights. Several advocacy organizations have popped up, including the 1776 Project, PAC, which has endorsed school board candidates explicitly opposed to such ideologies and has achieved mixed success in securing seats on school boards across the U.S. So that is good, but we are seeing a very different Republican platform. I talked about how a Christian should think about voting before the debate in this video here. I'll link that below. You should watch that video if you haven't already. Certainly there's more to be thinking about as the platform continues to change. But one of the things I focused on is picking the candidate, or really picking the platform. If you're going to pick picking the platform that's going to uphold the rule of law. And what it's getting down to now is that both parties are supporting very immoral things. And so So basically, you have the choice of, as always is the case, the lesser of two evils. And so it really comes down, a lot of this, to who's going to uphold the rule of law. Well, that's kind of what I argued. Let's listen to what MacArthur has to say. In this 2-minute clip that I discovered, he had much similar things to say from what I remember. So take it away, MacArthur.
God has designed human government. And Romans 13 tells us what his design is. God has designed human government and given human government ultimate authority for two purposes: to protect those who do good and punish those who do evil. That is the role of government. Anything beyond that is invented by men. So you really have one question to ask. You're not voting for persons, you're voting for coalitions. The person at the head of it that is running for the office of president is a public relations agent for the coalition behind it. So your question is this: which party, which coalition, which collection of leaders and influencers will uphold God's design for government? No Christian can vote for a coalition, an earthly, powerful, social, political machine that reverses that sets out to punish those who do good and protect those who do evil. That's not an endorsement of anybody. That's saying, as long as I'm in this world, and as long as I have the opportunity, I'm going to stand with God. In a small way, I can say, I stand with God in this. I can't say, well, I didn't do anything, let it happen. I can't do that. I have to say, I'm going to stand with God in this. It might be a small thing, it might be a little thing, but I'm going to stand for life and marriage and family and kids and true morality and justice, the rule of law.
Yeah, that's he's getting that straight from Romans 13. That we want to have those that will uphold the rule of law, to punish those who do evil, and to reward those who do good, not to terrorize those who do good. It actually says to terrorize, to be a terror to those who do evil, depending on the translation. And so we have a current administration right now that is terrorizing those who do good and rewarding those who do evil. I really wish it was a simple, do you want Biden to continue or whoever to continue? Do you want the regime to continue that's the most anti-Christian? Do you want that regime to continue? Yes or no? I wish it was just a simple yes or no. And a lot of this I really do think is going to come down to, how does one view voting? How do you vote it? How do you view it? Do you view it as an endorsement of the candidate that you put the checkbox next to? Or do you view it as a choice to have another organization there that's not going to be punishing Christians as badly as the other one? It's really going to come down to how one views voting. If one views voting as an endorsement of that candidate, well, then that's going to lead more and more Christians to not vote at all. But if one views voting as a privilege and an option that we have that the first century church did not have, and that we have an option to choose a party that would actually at least not be advocating for anarchy, not be advocating for everything anti-Christian, just some things anti-Christian, but not everything anti-Christian. But make no mistake, there's a very strong difference between the parties. Naturally, the evil is incredibly evil. On the Democrat, no Christian can vote for a Democrat. Like that, the whole party is a Romans 1 party. The whole party is against everything Christian, and the Republican platform is just moving further and further left because culture has declined, has become so much more depraved that is what's necessary for them to get the votes. That's what they feel is necessary, and that's the pragmatic approach. So yeah, that's the result. So as always, pray, follow your conscience in the matter, of course, and watch this video if you haven't, because I go in much more depth in that video, walk through some different passages of scripture, and hopefully that is a help to you. Well, thanks for watching. I hope this was a blessing to you. You've been watching Truth Transforms. The goal of Truth Transforms is to transform hearts and transform minds through the truth of God's Word. Go ahead and watch that video. It should be on your screen now. God bless you, and I will see you over there.